It happened to me the first time when I was 19. I was a freshman in college, and like most of you probably understand, when you're a freshman in college, you have this whole world that opens up to you. Your parents aren't around to breathe down your neck and tell you what to do. You're meeting all these new people, and you're just having all these new experiences, and you think that everything is so great. And you have this certain kind of freedom for the first time that gives you this new feeling of happiness that wasn't there before. And for me and the other 1 in 4 women walking around this campus, that feeling went away quickly. 1 in 4 women on a college campus will get assaulted. That's a good chunk of people, even in this room, but an even more bigger chunk of people walking around outside. But you see, college is a business. We don't get to tell our stories. We get silenced and pushed under the rug. If they didn't see it, it didn't happen. Ruining the college reputation would be all of our faults because of the decisions that we made. So the beginning of this story was fairly routine. Girl sees boy, boy meets girl, they talk, they hang out, so on and so forth. But this boy in particular, he was just something really special, and not in a good way. You see, I've always had this obsession with love. Being loved back, loving someone didn't really matter. And that obsession often got me screwed over, but never in a situation like this. So, you know, this guy and I, we're seeing each other every day. We're always in each other's rooms. We're walking around campus holding hands, like, you know, calling each other cute nicknames. We are clearly together. There's clearly some sort of a relationship thing. But to him, things were purely physical. And there was no doubt of him trying to manipulate me, basically. I'm getting myself in more trouble now. I'm breaking inner biz. I'm spending more and more time with him, spending all of my time with him. And I'm sure my grades were slipping at this point. I'm sure I wasn't doing half the things I needed to do. Because nothing mattered more to me than this guy. There's just one guy out of hundreds of people on this campus. This one person was screwing everything up for me. Now, you have to understand the kind of situation I was in. I had lost my brother a few months prior to suicide, and this whole semester had kind of just been awful. So I don't know if he took advantage of that, or if that was just me being vulnerable or what, but whatever it was, it worked for him, and I was using him to fill this void. He was not any good for me, he never was, and I never saw it until it was too late. So when you're in a relationship with someone, and by the way, I would never call this a relationship, he certainly didn't, or we're gonna call it that for the lack of a better word. You're gonna engage in some sort of sexual activity. It's natural, and every time I would hang out with him, he would ask me for oral sex. And when I say every time I hung out with him, I mean almost every day. Now, these 3 nights that I'm gonna tell you about in particular, I don't remember. I try to remember them, and it's as if someone kind of put a blindfold, like right where my brain is. I remember like bits and pieces, some of the things he said, some of the things he did to me, but nothing adds up. The pieces don't fit together. There were 3 nights where I said no, where I said to him, I don't want to, I'm not in the mood. Whatever reason I had, I was tired, whatever. But it didn't matter, because he didn't like that. He didn't take no for an answer, because how dare I say no to him? That's the kind of situation we were in. He grabbed my hair, and he pulled it like this. He twisted it around his hand, and he yanked it so that he would pull my head down like it was a rope almost. He gripped it so hard, and he was pulling with so much force that it probably gave me whiplash, and it hurt a lot. At first I thought he was just being aggressive, maybe in a playful way. But then it happened again and again and again, and it didn't ever stop. The tears running down my face didn't stop either. I walked out of his room those nights with pain in my neck, in my head, and my jaw from all the forcing and shoving. And to be completely honest, my stomach hurt really bad from swallowing so much that I couldn't take it. And then he ended it. Why, I don't remember. Something along the lines of, you're a sweet kid, but I don't have time for this anymore. But it didn't end there. And some of you may be saying to yourself, why didn't you run? Why didn't you scream? Why didn't you tell somebody? Why didn't you do something about this? You knew this was wrong. And I'm still asking myself these same questions. I'm a senior in college now, it's 3 years later, and I still do not have an answer for you. And trust me, with the amount of disgust and hate and judgment that you're looking at me with, I have that much hate for myself. I live with this situation every day. I hear the words he said to me every day, and it's just living hell. So a month later now, he messaged me out of the blue, asking me to go to a local bar with him. A bar that to this day, I cannot even walk past or be in the vicinity of without getting physically sick to my stomach. So we sat and we talked, and I said I didn't want anything to happen. I remember I was sitting there and I said, I'm not ready to get back into this. I'm not ready for this. And he turned to me and said, don't count on that. And like before, we went back to campus, and up to his room, and that night, nothing happened. So I felt safe. I thought maybe things were different. But it happened again, the same way before, and I wasn't safe, I wasn't okay, and people started to notice. One night, I was standing near his bed, and we were talking, I don't remember what about, but I don't think it was anything important. Suddenly, he pushed me down and got on top of me, and he kissed me so hard and so fast, I didn't even realize what was happening. You know, I can barely control myself around you. You know I care about you, right? At the time, I thought this was endearing, and now I'm screaming at myself, saying, what is wrong with you? Don't you see this guy raped you? I didn't realize what was happening to me, but I still hear those words. You know I care about you, right? I hear each syllable in my head like a drum banging, and I can't make it stop. It never stops. So one night, I'm in his room, and it's really late. And he says it finally. We're never going to be together. We were never going to be in a relationship like I wanted. The relationship that we had was not anything. I remember the instant shock of pain to my stomach. The moment I finally realized that he'd been using me all along. I finally realized that he never cared about me and everything he said was a lie. At the time I had a sweater on and I took it off and I threw it at him and I ran out. He followed me, asking me to come back, to not make a scene. Well, why can't we just talk about this? Why can't we be friends? And this is the part where I look back at myself and I kind of applaud, because I screamed in his face at 2 o'clock in the morning, why? So you can get your dick sucked again? And ran out of his floor. I was so angry, I didn't care how loud I was. I wanted someone to hear me, to help me, and to realize that he was dangerous. The pure look of disbelief on his face is something I'll never forget. So tears streaming down my face, I'm storming out, I'm crying, I'm banging on my friend's door, I don't care how late it was. I'm not okay, I didn't ask for this. I didn't want any of this. Like I said, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and I get a text. Grab your coat, we're going for a walk. I look at my roommate and I said, I'll be back. And she said, are you sure that's a good idea? And I said, no, but I'm going anyway. So I go, and I cry, and I scream in his face, and I tell him that he used me, and that I hate him, and that he's such a piece of shit. And he grabs my hand, gently, and he said, listen, nothing is deteriorating between us. What a weird word to use, right? Deteriorating? Things had already deteriorated. Nothing was there. Everything was gone as it was. So I snatch my hand away from him, and I start to walk away. And he comes back and grabs my hand much harder this time. I felt like my bones were breaking. And he says, nothing is deteriorating between us. Needless to say, he changed his mind pretty quickly. He didn't want to deal with me anymore. And then the reporting came. I didn't want to report him. In fact, I tried to appeal this report, but I'll get to that in a second. I wanted no part of this. I didn't want to sit down in a room full of people I barely knew, but would have to see around campus over and over again for the next 4 years and answer all of their questions. What position were you two in? How was the room set up? Who else was there? What were you wearing? What were you doing? How long did you guys know each other? Being at a religious school where abstinence is the only option and sex before marriage is so awful that you should die over it, I felt so lonely and judged, so disgusting, just sitting in this seat telling all these people all these things. And that's the part that haunts me the most, because I still have to be here. I still have to get those judging looks, and I still have to get those I know what you did stares. He got suspended for a year. He got kicked off campus, and I fought it. Like the stupid, head over heels, dumb ass that I was, I fought it. I didn't want him to hate me. I wanted there to still be a chance that we'd be together. Well, as you can probably imagine, there never was. And there never will be. He blamed me for everything, said I made it up, said that I used the administrators like pawns. And I cared about him so much that I almost went along with it. I almost said that I made it up and said that none of it ever happened. I almost ruined everything for myself just so he could stay, but he's left. He's gone, and I probably will never see him again, at least I hope not. So now it's 3 years later, and I'm still crying, I'm still hurt, and I still don't get it. I don't get how you could hurt someone like that and not care. But even worse, pretend to care. I don't understand how you can see someone giving you their whole heart and just stomp on it. The one thing I always think about is if he did it to anyone else. No, scratch that. There's no if. I want to know how many. Give me a number, a list of names. Let me find these girls and hug them and say, I'm sorry, you're not alone, he did it to me too. To be completely honest with you, he ruined a lot for me. He ruined this campus. I can't walk around here anymore without feeling that he's gonna pop out of the bushes or somewhere, it doesn't matter, and attack me. I can't see all the places that we used to go without getting a sharp pain in my stomach knowing what he did. I can't experience love and affection from anyone without doubting it, second guessing everything that this person is telling me. I'm afraid of men. I'm afraid that someone will hurt me like that, like they did again. And guess what? They did. That wasn't the only time I've been assaulted, but it's the only time I really talk about. An ex-coworker, he touched me, and he continued to touch me even when I told him to stop. Even when I pulled him off me and begged God to get me out of this mess, to help me, no one came. I had to sit there and take it until he was finally done. And sometimes I still see him. I know what happened, and he thinks nothing of it. After this situation, I had an ex-boyfriend, and he loved me so much, I was everything to him. This is what he used to tell me all the time. And one day we got in a fight. Things got a little intense. It started with a push, just one. And in the fights following, there was a lot of pushes. There was a lot of bruises, a lot of scratches, a lot of being pushed into walls, and a lot of pain. All because I believed in this ridiculous idea that love actually existed for somebody like me. And I can't tell you how many nights I screamed and cried on the bathroom floor, begging and pleading for something different, anything different. It's 3 years later, and I'm a different person. I've been through more pain in a year than any one person should have to experience in a lifetime. And I can sit here and give you a spiel about how much stronger I am and how much better I am for it, but the truth is I'm really not. I'm not this strong person that everyone tells me I am. I'm not this great person that people make me out to be. And honestly, I wish I was. I promise you that that's not true, not all the time anyway. I still break down and it still hurts. And the worst part, I can't barely remember any of it. I was there, I know what happened, but I can't remember it. For a while when I told this story, it felt like I was lying because I just couldn't remember these pieces that weren't there. So how do I know it's true? How do I know that he assaulted me and I'm not just making the whole thing up? How do I know that he pushed me into walls and that those bruises weren't just from me running into things? How do I know that that coworker, didn't just have a miscommunication? I know because I still have the pain from those nights, those 3 different nights.